Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to today's Lunchtime concert. This is the last concert in our summer series, can you believe it? It started, this is concert number 24, so it started that many weeks ago. But this is the last one in our summer series, so that means there is no concert next week. Just to be clear, no concert next week. However, as you'll see from the back of your programmes, our winter series gets underway on Tuesday the 25th of November. That's Tuesday the 25th, and there are 5 Tuesday concerts from then leading up to Christmas. As you'll see on the 25th, it's James Thomas giving us a splendid organ recital. On the 2nd of December, in amongst our Christmas tree festival, so there'll be plenty of festive cheer then, we have Jeffrey Wilson on saxophones, accompanied by Christopher Weston. And then on the 9th of December, we have Diana Moore, mezzo-soprano, and John Reid on piano. Then on the 16th, we have the Gold Crest Ensemble, who were due to open our summer concert, some of you may remember, but then due to illness were unable to be here. But they are delighted to be coming back in December. And then on the 23rd, we'll round all of our 2025 concerts off with the choir of Ipswich Minster doing carols for Christmas with audience participation items as well. So that's the winter series, which will begin on the 25th of November, and there's no concert for the next 5 weeks or so until that gets underway. We are very grateful indeed for all the sponsorship we received throughout this series, and indeed to today's anonymous member of the congregation for sponsoring today's concert. Sponsorship doesn't quite cover all of our costs, and so we ask if you are able to give generously at the end. Those donations do ensure that this series can continue from year to year. Lastly from me, if you have a mobile phone, please do remember to switch it back on again at the end of the concert, just so you don't miss any messages for the rest of the day. But without any furthermore from me, please would you give a very warm welcome to today's recitalist, Lewis Kingsley Peart.
Indeed, it's a very great pleasure to be back here for what I think is my 3rd time here now in Ipswich, and it's always so lovely to be back and indeed see so many of you here on this rather chilly afternoon. I've prepared a rather varied programme for you today, and I'm going to open with 2 pieces by a composer that I'm sure needs no introduction, and that is Franz Schubert. These pieces I'm going to play are his moments musicaux, or 2 of his moments musicaux, literally meaning musical moments. He composed 6 of these pieces in a set, and they really are just moments long, some of them, no more than 2 pages. However, the incredible thing is that he somehow manages to distill such a vivid, potent musical language and voice in these short, but rather quixotic and interesting compositions. I'm going to play the 1st and the 6th from the set of his 6 moments musicaux. The first one in C major opens with a sort of fanfare which calls the listener to attention, and then in true Schubertian fashion it flits very quickly between major and minor keys, very unsettled, before this kind of quasi, almost I think religious kind of trio section in the middle. I'm then going to play the final moments musicaux in A-flat major, and again I think this is a deeply intimate work, and in fact we know that Schubert composed these pieces with the intention of them actually being enjoyed at home in gatherings and soirees that he called Schubertiads, where he would play some of his own pieces and they would sing his songs. And I think this is really very much like a quiet sort of intimate prayer that we're overhearing. We're not really supposed to hear it. It's deeply moving music. So we have 2 moments musicaux by Schubert to start the program. Thank you very much. And next I'm going to play a group of pieces by Sibelius. Now, Sibelius is not a composer that we immediately associate with the piano at all. We think of him as Finland's great symphonist. However, he did write a great many pieces for solo piano, I believe over 100 miniatures for solo piano. And he was writing them with similar intentions as Schubert, for them to be enjoyed at home by amateur musicians and play them to each other and enjoy his music. And frankly, he was writing these pieces as a way of making a bit of extra cash. I came across an article that said Sibelius had a chronic shortage of money. And apparently one day when his daughter said to him, why are you writing these kind of miniatures for piano and not your great symphonic poems? He said, well, it's so you might have some butter on your bread. So it gives you an idea of the circumstances in which he was writing these pieces. The first one I'm going to play is called Impromptu, and it's from a set of 6 impromptus, and the melody itself is actually taken from a melodrama that he wrote called Nights of Jealousy. And I think it's a rather kind of hypnotic piece, and a very, very charming melody indeed. I'm then going to play a piece called The Spruce, and this has become one of his most famous piano pieces, and it's from a set of pieces called The Trees. And you could say that this one has become something of an evergreen, if you'll pardon the pun. And I love the way he writes for the piano in this, the way he spaces the melody between the accompaniment. I'm sure you'll hear what I mean. And then I'm going to play a piece called Reverie, and this is from Opus 58. Opus 58 is a set of 10 piano pieces, and they enjoyed huge critical acclaim at the time at which they were written. People were saying this is some of the most inventive piano music they'd ever heard, and I do think it's every bit as inventive as Chopin or Schumann piano writing. And harmonically, it's just totally weird. It's so bizarre and really ahead of its time. And there's a huge chord on the second page, which always kind of catches me by surprise. I think, where did he dream that harmony up? It's incredible. And then I'm going to finish the set with a piece called The Harpist. And this requires the pianist to sort of imitate the sound of a harp on the piano with these beautiful arpeggiated chords. So we've got 4 pieces by Jean Sibelius now. Thank you very much. And moving now from Finland to Norway, I'm going to play 3 lyric pieces by Edvard Grieg. Grieg was a Norwegian composer, and I'm sure a name that is familiar to many of you. When we think of Grieg, we think of his larger scale works like the A minor piano concerto and Peer Gynt. However, I think in his heart he was a miniature composer, and by that I do not mean less good. In fact, quite the opposite. I think Grieg had a real talent for, rather like Schubert and Sibelius, taking these very short forms that he called lyric pieces, and in some of them containing a whole musical world. It's so incredible what he can do in just a few pages. The first piece I'm going to play is called Elegy, and it's a very, very beautiful piece with the melody predominantly in the left hand, whilst the right hand plays these almost kind of syncopated bell tolls. It's very atmospheric. And then I'm going to play a piece called Little Bird, and I don't need to explain why it's called Little Bird, you will just hear that's exactly what he was trying to get the effect of on the piano. And finally, I'm going to play Wedding Day at Troldhogen, which if you don't know by name, you will most certainly know when you hear it. It's one of his most famous compositions, arranged for orchestra, piano duet, and organ, and so on. And he actually wrote that piece as a 25th wedding anniversary gift to his wife. And I think it's a very kind of jubilant piece of music, and I have a rather personal thought about the middle section, in which I feel that this is a lover's duet. You've got the kind of male voice in the left hand and female voice in the right, and they dovetail in and out of each other very beautifully before returning to all the festivities of the wedding. So we have 3 lyric pieces by Grieg to close today's programme.